recognizes
the ranking member for opening statement. I yield to the ranking member for an opening statement. I yield back.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Distinguished gentlelady from California, Mary Bono. Gentlelady is recognized.
Chair now recognizes
The lady from California is recognized.
I'm pleased to introduce Congresswoman Mary Bono, former U.S. Representative for California's Inland Empire and Desert Region from 1998 to 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Welcome to Sagely Speaking. I am your host, Mary Bono, and let's get right to our guest because I want every minute that I have with Marisa Wayne to matter. My guest, as I just said, Marisa Wayne, longtime friend. We go way back. Your family graciously hosted me and my late husband, Sonny, on some fundraising events to benefit the John Wayne Cancer Foundation. Do you remember those trips?
I do. I remember meeting you. We were in Wailea, Maui, and it was a golf and tennis extravaganza, and lots of wonderful people came over, and we played golf, we played tennis, and we sat on the beach, and we drank Mai Tais, and all for a very good cause. And those were really good days. We actually are hosting, I've gotten into pickleball now, and we're hosting the Paddle Up for the John Wayne Cancer Foundation in October here in Newport Beach, the Tennis and Pickleball Club of Newport. So we're still having events. We have a run coming up close to you. We were just talking about in Ridgeway, Colorado. And so we like to keep people active because that's one of the main preventative. If you're active and healthy, hopefully you won't get cancer. So we love to do our fundraising events around activities and get the people out in the community and sweat and have a great time and, do a little good.
And you,
as well as for other people.
You do a lot in your cycling studio, too, to raise money for not only the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, but other nonprofits as well, I understand.
Yes, we just had a full day of rides benefiting Voices for Awareness in their Facing Fentanyl initiative. My dear partner in Dallas, Sabrina, her brother passed away from an illicit fentanyl, one pill, and he was 19 when he passed. So it was on his birthday. And it was called Coast for Krish. His name's Christian. And they're a beautiful, wonderful family. And Dallas community really showed up. And everyone came and rode. And we had a lot of wonderful vendors there who donated meals and drinks and bracelets. And it's great when people come together as a community and really make a difference. So we try to do that when we can.
Well, it's a small world. And I work, too, with Voices for Awareness and a lot of nonprofits. And I'm so sorry to hear that. And I love that you put your star power and energy behind all of these causes. Can I start talking about your dad? Thank you. I mean, my gosh, what an opportunity with you to have this conversation. Of course, John Wayne, absolutely screen legend and icon. And your dad. Oh my God, I love the photos of you when you were a tiny tot with your father. And they just touch my heart so much. But what are some of the fondest memories of your father growing up?
Boy, there's so many, but we spent a lot of time on our boat, the Wild Goose, which it was his passion. When he wasn't working, when I'd get a school break, we would go out on the boat. And, there was no satellite TV, there was, no telephones, no cell phones. It was really a great time. And we didn't know it at the time. We didn't know,
You thought everybody did that.
Yeah. But we got to eat meals together and jump off the boat and play games. He taught me how to play poker and backgammon, chess, gin rummy. Just had so much fun and a lot of quality time on the boat. So those are probably the memories I cherish the most. But he died when I was 13. So, I keep trying to, every once in a while, I'll get a new memory and I'll be like, oh, I forgot about that, and it's been so long and his presence is still so powerful, as a family and as his youngest daughter. I still remember so much, so vividly. And yeah. It was cool.
Can you share a favorite story or anecdote that highlights your father's personality? I've heard a number of stories from a number of folks about his personality. What's a big highlight?
Very funny, very witty, good practical joker. I guess when I say practical joke, we lived in I think it was about a 5-story home in London when he was filming Brannigan. And it was rumored, I think he made up the rumor, that the top floor was haunted. And my sister came over with some friends. She's 10 years older than me, so she was probably 18 or 19 at the time, and they were traveling through Europe, and they came, and my dad put them up in the haunted bedroom. And every night he'd sneak up and he'd like turn the painting on the wall, or he'd move one piece of clothing to the other side of the room. They'd come down screaming, "We can't stay up there. There's something up there." And he'd just be like, "Come on, you're being ridiculous." And he would do it every night. He was just a funny practical joker. And we weren't allowed to walk by him without stopping and giving him a hug or a kiss. Very affectionate, and really loved having his family around him.
I have grandkids. That's a great idea. I'm going to do this fifth floor thing. I do. I have two. Little Sonny, who happened to be born on his grandfather's birthday, ironically, but then also little Sia. But I think I might do the same thing to them one day. That would be
my kids.
The haunted room.
It was a game. Well, that's funny. Yeah, I was talking about the walking by and hugging and kissing. I make my kids do that.
Oh, that. No, I'm not thinking about that part. I'm thinking about the evil part.
You're thinking of taunting them.
Yeah.
Taunting them and scaring them.
Yeah, I'll do both. But, everybody in Hollywood, it's a demanding life. It's a crazy life. It's a surreal life. How did your dad balance family life and the Hollywood life?
I don't know. He was 59 when I was born. And I know in his early career, he was working. I think he was gone quite a bit. He had 4 children from his first wife, Josephine, who was a fabulous lady. And I called her Granny. I mean, we were all very close, and she was a great gal. And I think she had to, raise those kids with him gone a lot, quite a bit. So I'm not one to speak to how he balanced it at that time. But by the time I came along, he was well established. He did a couple of films a year. And when he wasn't working, we'd be on the boat, or he'd take me to school. He'd take me to play tennis. He was a very hands-on dad. We had an ice cream parlor right down the street. After school, we'd walk down to Will Wright's, and, there was a bait and tackle, and we'd go fishing off the dock. And it was just a really idyllic life at the time. And I knew he was an actor. I knew people knew him, but I didn't think just seemed really normal to me. And I think it was back then. People were very respectful. People loved him in the community. And, when we would travel, people would come up and ask for his autograph. But I think today would be a different story with everybody and their cell phones and,
Oh, yeah. No privacy.
But I think, he did what he had to do, and he loved his career. He loved making movies. He loved, acting as an art, and he loved his family. So when he was working and he had his family around him, I think he was really happy.
Well, I know that he took you to the Academy Awards.
Yes.
But that's not exactly normal, Marisa.
Well, that wasn't. And looking back, I didn't realize who I was sitting with. We had a dressing room backstage, and he was sharing it with Cary Grant and Laurence Olivier. And at the time, I just thought these were two other guys. And it was probably about a month before my dad died. He was very sick. And I think he knew it was going to be his last appearance at the awards. And he was presenting, I believe it was either Best Actor or Best Picture. And he loved Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty. And everybody was calling him Warren Beatty. And he's like, no, it's Warren Beatty. And he's practicing. And Laurence Olivier and Cary Grant, and we're all like, Warren Beatty. And he goes out there and he says the list of nominees, and he says Warner Beatty. And we're all, no. So he came back. I'm like, Dad, you said Warren. He's like, I know, I did, But that was quite an experience, and very special looking back. And Cary Grant gave me a rose that I had forever. I don't know what happened to it. It's probably disintegrated at this point, but he was just such a lovely man. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned friends, and a lot of your family's friends were at the fundraising trips we had done to Maui. Mm-hmm. A lot of wonderful friends, legendary people who would get together. And I can't imagine how often you had to be around these people in a regular environment. Those fundraising trips felt like a regular environment. We were playing golf and tennis, but we were just hanging out. And it was quite an experience. But what do you think that your father himself would say about his legacy today?
Well, when he was in the hospital, and he had already beaten cancer before I was born. He had lung cancer, and he had a lung removed, and he was cancer free. And it was very important to him to raise awareness and work with the American Cancer Society and other groups to find a cure eventually. And when he died, when he was dying, he said, "Kids, if my name is good for anything, I want you to use it to help people with cancer, help them, so they don't have to go through what we've gone through. Let's find a cure if my name's good for anything." So, right away we established the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, and we had the John Wayne Cancer Institute, which started at UCLA where my dad passed away at UCLA, and then it moved to St. John's in Santa Monica. And through the John Wayne Cancer Foundation and Institute, standard of care, the sentinel node biopsy was founded at the John Wayne Cancer Institute for breast cancer. It's a standard of care now that they do to detect if cancer has gone to the lymph nodes, so that they don't have to remove all of the lymph nodes, which can be very painful, and they can find out and target if there is cancer in that sentinel node. We have a grant. We're helping Dr. Maggie Denomi. She's at Duke University. She used to be in LA, but she moved to Duke University. We gave her a grant so that she can continue her work with breast cancer and lymph nodes. We have the John Wayne Cancer Foundation Surgical Oncology Fellowship Program, where surgeons come and they train under John Wayne doctors in their specialties. And after 2 years, they go off. And so we have this network of doctors all over the world that are treating people who have cancer, and they're doing research, they're treating, there's support, education. We also fund a program here called Block the Blaze. And it's actually in every coastal state, I believe, that has a junior lifeguards. We hand out hats and sunscreen, and we teach them to be sun safe and to protect their skin, and hopefully prevent getting skin cancer, teaching them to spot a spot, which is a weird looking mole. I think my dad would be very proud of the work that's been done under his name and is still being done. And we are very proud to have the support of just our great community and the people that have volunteered and that work for the foundation. And we go out and we do these runs and we do the rides and now the pickleball tournament. And it really is, it's something that people do out of the goodness of their hearts because they've all been touched by somebody who has cancer. And I think they also, especially here in Newport, they just really still cherish my dad. Everybody has a story. Everyone talks about how great he was here and how great he was there. And he was in the hospital and he would deliver cookies to the lady down the hall, and just so beloved.
Not just in Newport Beach, but the country and the world. And I know you know that. You must feel that love everywhere you go. But just as he lent his name, he said, "Put my name to good use." It was that character strength that he always exuded. Is that what made your father stand out as an actor in Hollywood to begin with? Was it this character, the strength, this sense of self? I wonder if that's what made him so special in that career, which, as you know, is an impossible career to break into. And he was one of the greatest and was that it? I'm doing these leading questions that I do. I'm asking you a question, which I'm actually giving you my opinion. So forgive me for that. But
I do. He was a unique character in life. He would have been successful doing whatever. He was a hard worker. He, I think, originally wanted to go into law and wanted to go to the Naval Academy and couldn't get in and got accepted to USC on a football scholarship and ended up hurting his shoulder. I heard he was body surfing or doing something down here in Newport. He hurt his shoulder. He lost his scholarship. And he was working at the studios, being a prop man, just, helping carry big stuff and setting up sets. And director noticed him and just started putting him in little movies, all the way up until Stagecoach was the big breakthrough where John Ford cast him as Ringo Kid. And that was it. He was super popular. I think he represented the American dream. He was a, handsome, rugged cowboy. He had a softer side. The ladies loved him. The men wanted to be him. He was just he was a great actor. A lot of people said, well, he just played himself. He did have those characteristics as well, but he really put a lot into his art. And if you watch, his different films, The Searchers, his performance is flawless in The Searchers. I mean, he's just, and The Shootist, his last film where he's a, old gunslinger dying of cancer. I mean, he was a true artist and a true patriot. And really, what you see is what you get. He loved his country. He loved God, family.
Well, we're going to talk about all of that too in a little bit, because we all love food. And I know you're a cook and you've got some projects you're doing that'll be fun to talk about. But I want to let you know that the film The Cowboys is one of my favorites. And for me, I saw it with my brother Steve. We were kids. We saw it in the theater. We walked to the theater, and he's 8 years older than I am, but totally a Western buff, everything. And that moment, I remember it so well. And I think I've watched the movie with my grandkids. I've watched it with my husband. I've probably seen it 20 times.
Yeah, it's a good movie. But that Bruce Dern, I still cannot look at him. Poor guy.
Yeah, my husband, same thing. He gets angry if he sees Bruce Dern. He said, he killed John Wayne.
He's like the nicest old man on a movie, and I'm just like, ah. Yeah,
that's pretty funny. But the other thing is,
he's like, I don't know if you want to take this role. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to like you. And I don't think that he really understood. There was an interview with him. I have to look it up, but it was really cute the way he told the story.
Yeah, I can see his face now just thinking about it. But the other thing is the influence that your father and John Ford, great director, had on Western, let's say tourism, but the cinematography and the beauty of the West. They were the first to truly capture that and instill this in people's imaginations. My brother Steve went on to become a geologist, maybe partly because of those movies, during his youth, but that's what he went into. And but to this day, I just watched the movie Horizon.
No,
I don't.
not yet.
The cinematography, the scenery is just breathtaking. And I loved every minute of it, but it reminded me, of course, of the great, movies of, 70 years ago that were there. Not like the landscape has changed a lot in those years, but of course, technology has. And that's part of the reason that I live in Colorado, too, is because of this.
To where True Grit was filmed,
Durango-ish
area, Ridgeway. My mom tells the story, he had just had his lung surgery. And it was high altitude, and they wanted him to do all this kind of very physical work. And she was really worried. She didn't want him to do it, but he did it, and he did a great job. He made it look effortless.
Yeah, I hope to get out there for the next True Grit event that's going to happen up in Ridgeway.
September 21st, not this weekend, but the next. Let me see what that is. But yeah, Ethan, would love to have you. It'd be great for you guys to catch up. September 20th.
It'd be fun.
They run through the people that own ranches up there. The trail actually goes through their private property. I believe part of it is on Ralph Lauren's property. Everybody is out there 5 a.m, helping set up and with their pom-poms, cheering everybody on. It's really fun. They've got people on horseback that when the runners start, the horses have the flag and they run and everybody follows the horses. It's pretty dramatic.
Another example of the Wayne family just giving back so much and doing so much and the hard work you all put in to be helpful wherever you can. I just think it's amazing. I love your family. I think I've met almost all of your siblings, and I think I've met your mother, and just what treasures you guys all are.
She just turned 96 last week, and she lives on her own right down the street from me, and she paints. She's a beautiful artist. She paints faces, and she nails it. She gets the expression. There's one of my dad she did that she calls the legend, where it's like he's really giving you that steely-eyed stare. But she's doing great.
That's wonderful. Please give her my best. We'll continue with our interview in a moment, but first I'd like to thank my sponsors. Lucy Pet Foods is the leader in gut health. Their formulas for life feature prebiotic, balanced fiber that nourishes your dog and cat's total health. Every purchase helps support the Lucy Pet Foundation, a 501c3 charity helping animals. Save 15% off your first order and use the promo code SAGELYSPEAKING, all one word, and you will get free shipping at lucypetfoods.com. If you're committed to tackling the opioid and addiction crises, then you need to be at the 2025 RX Summit. Use code SAGELY, that's SAGELY, for an extra $100 off. Join top experts and professionals as we share strategies for prevention, deflection, treatment, and recovery. Don't miss this chance to be part of the change. Head over to rx-summit.com to register now. That's rx-summit.com for an additional $100 off. Mothers for Awareness and Prevention of Drug Abuse, driving solutions to prevent drug abuse and overdose deaths by focusing on prevention through education and awareness. And now, back to our interview. You know, when I talked about why I'm in Durango and my love of the West and all things West, I think it's the influence that your father had in shaping American culture. Do you believe he shaped it more than that? I think, character, again, sense of self. I think politically he had a lot of strong feelings. When you think about his shaping American culture.
Stalin actually had a hit. He ordered my dad, I don't know, a hitman or whatever, to be killed because of the threat to communism. And I do think, he loved this country. He loved our freedom. He would talk to anybody about their point of view. He was like, hell, I thought I was a liberal because I listened to both sides. And, he's voted Democrat, he's voted Republican. He was about doing the right thing. And I do think that he worked with the USO, he worked with the OSS. He's been given honorary membership to every branch of the armed forces. He loved going with the USO and talking to soldiers and being over there, and was, no matter who was president, he's like, that's my president and I'm going to support him and I'm going to help him. He would call Carter on a weekly basis. There's correspondence. We have the John Wayne exhibit in Fort Worth, Texas, and he has correspondence with the presidents, and very, very well written. You really have to see some of these letters to appreciate the camaraderie that they had, even when they had opposing views. He just always was there to help. You being in politics probably can relate to, it's just not that civil anymore. And it feels like it's me and you, and, we clash our heads. And I think he really wanted it to be what's best for the country as a whole. And let's all work together to get that. I forget what your original question was.
Oh, that's all right. I said this is what we're going to do. We were going to just talk. But I actually have been to the museum and stayed at a fabulous hotel nearby, the Drover. And I love that place. And I want to encourage people, it is worth a trip. And I think the stockyards are a ton of fun to go hang out in, and of course, spend time in the museum. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But I also heard, or Kim, my producer, told me that in 2023, you and your granddaughters opened bags of fan mail that was sent to your dad when he was in the hospital, but he had never opened them or seen them, but you were able to go through these.
Well, let me just correct you on one thing. I am not a grandmother yet.
I'm so sorry.
Not quite yet, but I look forward.
No, not your granddaughters, John Wayne's granddaughters.
Yeah. So
I misspoke.
My niece Anita, Laura, and I. There are you can't see me right now, but just like laundry bags full of fan mail that he got when he was in the hospital. At home, he would go through all his fan mail. He would personally respond. He would sign every picture. He was very good about that, but unfortunately, he was ill and he couldn't get through thousands and thousands of pounds that were coming in. So we have those at the exhibit, and every once in a while, one of us will go in and we'll open a letter and we'll read it. And they just randomly pick them out, and each one of us were brought to tears by the kindness of the people to take the time out of their day and handwrite these beautiful letters to him, complimenting his work and how he helped them in their lives and how he helped them in their issues and their families. And it's really beautiful. I would love to do that every day, every time I go there. So, yeah.
How did the museum come into being?
How did it come to be?
Yeah. Whose idea was it, and why?
We went, my oldest brother, Michael, passed away, and we had a huge storage unit in Burbank and just had all this stuff in it that was, in storage. for quite a while. And we're like, is this all trash? Is it worth anything? Like what, and then we started to find some wardrobe and some cool stuff. And anyway, we did a traveling little pop-up. We were in Nashville, we were at Opryland for a little bit, and then we were in Vegas for the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, which, a lot of Western folk come to town. It's the first 10 days in December. And we had a pop-up there, and a lovely man whose name was Patrick Gotch owns RFD TV and the Cowboy Channel, and his headquarters is in Fort Worth in the Stockyards. And he knew they were, renovating Mule Alley, and he's like, you guys belong in the Stockyards. It's going to be the Western destination for the world. And Ethan went out and looked at it, and they became very, very good friends. Unfortunately, he suddenly passed away this last year, but it was his vision and partnership that made it happen. And so we just expanded. We added about 4,000 square feet, I believe now it's about a 14,000 square foot exhibit. And there's more. I mean, we're rotating stuff in and out. We just got some guns from his movies and his personal collection. So something for everybody.
And it's next to Billy Bob's, the famous honky tonk. So you can go stay at the Drover, visit the museum, and then go out for a night out at Billy Bob's. It's a great trip.
If only Billy Bob's would have a 7:00 show, though. They all start at 10. Can't you do like the early bird?
I'd sign up for that one too, for sure. Well, what else are you doing now? I know you're working with my producer, Kim, on some exciting stuff, and you never seem to let a moment go by without you engaged in something. So what's your passion? What are you doing these days?
Irons in the fire. Well, I love eating. So I love cooking. I love cooking and eating. I think that's something that I got from both of my parents. My mom had a restaurant, and she has cookbooks. And just sitting around a family table, having people over, watching football, the Olympics, whatever. I just think there's something about preparing a meal for people you love. And so Kim and I are kind of working on a little something there. But since I love to eat, I also need to work out a lot. So I started in 2013. I started a company called Grit Cycle. And we had 7 locations in California, and then COVID hit, and we were closed down, and it was a really challenging time. I had 2 partners at the time, and they both said, we want to sell. We just think it's the end of fitness as we know it. And so ended up selling that. But I have this wonderful girl that used to come to Grit, and she moved to Texas, and she said, my studio that I work at closed. I'm going to open one here. Do you want to partner up? So we did that, and it's called Coast. She's from Southern California as well. So we're bringing the coastal vibe to Dallas. We have a third partner who's from the East Coast. So it's that we're bringing up, it's light and beachy, and it's a really fun workout. We play great music and do choreography on the bike. It's to the rhythm of the music. And people come out of there and they're just like, that was like therapy. It wasn't like I was working out. It was so much fun. The time flew by. It's 45 minutes. You're in, you're out. So I love doing that. I love, feeling healthy and being with other people and, having them come up to me and say, I've never liked working out before, and now I feel strong. I'm a happier person. I sleep better. It's not about how you look. People will come in because they want to get in shape or lose, 10 pounds or something. But it's so much more than that. It's really mentally, it just makes you a happier person in general. And then you can go cook a good meal and enjoy it with your friends and family.
Sounds like a great day.
Passions, and I'm a mom. I have a 20-year-old daughter who is at college, but I still have, my son just turned 17 yesterday, so he's a junior, so I still have my son at home. And luckily, he likes to eat because I'm cooking a lot and he's eating a lot. He's an athlete and comes home hungry every day. What's for dinner? What's for lunch? So,
well, when I read some of your interviews and conversations you've had, I love that you focus so much on holistic health, and that you are saying it's good to have a good meal, and it's good to go work out, and it's good for your physical health and your mental health, because we talk a lot about mental health on this show. It's so important, and the way you bring it all together and then your family's legacy and all that you are is just so special. Is there anything about you specifically that you think you did get from? I'm assuming you got the cooking from your mom.
Yes, cooking from my mom, eating from my dad. That I got from my dad. Anything specifically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna. That's what. Sometimes I don't complete my own thought or my own sentence. I think people know that who listen to this show. But I was going to ask you, what part of Marisa is? You go, oh gosh, that's my dad. I'm my dad. I'm my dad's daughter.
I have no patience for, and my kids are not disrespectful, but I remember that with him. It's please and thank you, and So if I feel like, my son leaves the wet towel on the floor for 4 days and I've asked him to pick it up, I'll kind of lose my patience a little bit with that because I'm like, that's a disrespectful. There was a lot about being respectful. And I feel that was probably kind of a weak example, but just, in general, in society, there's no reason to be rude. You can be a kind person. And I kind of drum that in with my kids. And I get feedback from other parents that they're well behaved. So that's good.
How about traditions, family traditions that you all did?
Family traditions, well, games, we play a lot. I never played Rummy Cube with my dad. We played Gin Rummy, but my kids and I will play Rummy Cube. My son and I were playing chess for a little bit and poker. But yeah, we have family dinners.
All right, so I'm going to ask two of the most cliched questions I'm sure you get. Your favorite film of your father's?
It changes, but I think steadily it's always been The Quiet Man. It's not a Western. It's filmed in Ireland. John Ford directed it. It's beautiful. Speaking of cinematography and landscape, it's visually just a work of art. It's a great cast. My dad, Maureen O'Hara, fall in love, and her brother, Victor McLaglen's, against the marriage, and it's all this drama, but very witty, very romantic, and just beautifully done. And I don't know why, of all his work, it's a fantastic film. I don't know why I would say that over The Shootist, or I love Big Jake, or True Grit. They're all fantastic, but The Quiet Man just kind of reminds me of him. I don't know why. Yeah,
I think it's my husband's favorite too.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. I think for the very same reasons that you said, same things. But are there any actors today that you're seeing out there that remind you of him in style or philosophy or just persona, who they are? Is there anybody like him? You're going, gosh, he must have studied my dad, and that's his acting technique because he's doing a little bit of John Wayne.
I don't know. I've always thought Kurt Russell reminded me a little bit of him in certain things, and maybe Jeff Bridges, because didn't he play Rooster Cogburn in the remake of True Grit? Was that Jeff Bridges? I don't
recall.
I love them. I do think that Glenn Powell kid is really cute. He just watched Twisters. I like him. I like the kid that played with Tom Cruise, Rooster. I don't know his real name, but I think there's a lot of fine the younger actors, Tom Holland. I don't know so much about them reminding me of my dad, but I've always, that Kurt Russell, I thought if somebody was going to play him, it could be a Kurt Russell type, or maybe a Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, that's a good idea too, for sure. Well, is there anything that you want to tell people about the Wayne family that you haven't already talked about? Or I will say this, that I've witnessed firsthand up close: the generosity, the passion, the kindness. Every person in your family is a kind person. And I don't know. I just, what can you say that people don't know about your father or the family, or the family?
Well, I just think it's kind of boring. There's not really, we love each other. We're really blessed. My brothers and sisters from Josephine are a lot older than me. So my dad was having us kids while he was also having grandkids. So when we were younger, they were raising their own kids in LA and in Tustin, and we didn't see them that often. But now we all kind of live close to each other and keep in touch. And my niece Anita is now having little grandkids, and they're all very close. And it's really fun. It's really fun having a big family, and we're not always super nice. I mean, there's hopefully in public we love each other. We get through it. That's part of life is, being a family and working through hard times and disagreements and, becoming stronger because of that. I think most of us are religious, Christian, Catholic, very much. I think from my dad, I don't think he really identified with a certain religion, but he always talked about the man upstairs. And I think that is something that is, and my mother too, and as well as Josephine, she was very Catholic. I think that might surprise a lot of people about him, that he did, we would pray and he believed in God and was, faithful. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. And I sure wish we had somebody like him around these days, especially with the mess that we're in. You mentioned politics.
Yeah.
But the leadership in our country that's sorely lacking.
I just saw Reagan the other night. I loved it. I was crying. My hands were up in the air. I was cheering, So hopefully we can get back to that. Hopefully the American people will band together and realize that, things could be a lot better. But we all have to, come to the table and work it out instead of pointing our fingers and fighting and just consistently arguing. Let's use that energy to figure things out. Yeah.
Well, and if we could get somebody with character, strength, intelligence, I know I'm asking for a lot, I guess, but all of the things that when I think of your dad, that's what I think of, the icon that represented all things good and strong. And I remember once seeing the boat in the harbor. I grew up in Southern California in South Pasadena. I saw the boat in the harbor and it was a thrill. Oh, there's the boat. And I think I saw your father from behind.
Okay.
Okay, this is what, 50 years ago, 45 years ago, whatever. And I still remember that's how much it meant to me and how special he was. But is it?
Still, they use it as a charter boat. Doesn't really look the same. They added a couple levels on it so they could accommodate weddings and big parties. But I still, every time I'm out on the water, I see it. Yeah. Really, really great memories. Really fun. And then there's a hotel here in Newport called the Lido House Hotel. And it's in the lobby. They have a replica of how she used to look. And she's just beautiful. And they have photos of my dad up on the wall. So my niece was staying there the other day. My niece is a country singer. She's in a band called Runaway June, and they're terrific. So she was in town for my mom's birthday, she and her little girl. So it was my mom, Aisa, me, Ethan, Jennifer, and her little girl. So what's that? 3 or 4 different generations. It was cool. So we got some photos.
I have checked out her music. It is fantastic, and it's so great to see that success. How exciting.
Yeah,
I didn't see
new music being released here pretty soon, too.
Runaway June?
Runaway June. Really talented girls, yeah.
Everybody should check them out for sure. So look, check out Runaway June, check out the museum, stay at the Drover, go to Billy Bob's. I'm just filled with ideas for people to go do things. If nothing else, this podcast is going to tell you what you ought to do for the next 3 months of your life. But I do want to have you back when you and Kim launch whatever it is you're doing. I kind of have a little sneak preview or idea of what you're doing. Okay. But when you do it, I hope you come back and talk about it and share with everybody your next project.
On as our guest.
Thank you. That would be fun. Do we eat?
We eat, we drink, we laugh, we make a mess.
All right, sign me up. But Marisa, I want to thank you very much for joining me today on Sagely Speaking. It's great to catch up. And I know I did reach out to a number of my friends and I said, hey, I've got Marisa Wayne coming on. Do you have questions for me to ask her? And oh my God, then I had to say, stop. I've got too many now, way too many. But of course, my husband is a former astronaut. The number one question he gets is, how do you go to bathroom in space? It's like, oh gosh, I know that one's going to come up. And there are some questions like that he can count on. But I hope that my questions were okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's been a long time since we've seen each other, but it feels like it was yesterday.
It does. I have a great photo. I don't think you have aged a bit over all these decades.
You too. You look beautiful. Durango fresh air is good for you.
Indeed. Well, I will take you up on this dinner invitation with you and Kim. I know we'll eat and drink a lot and then have you back, and I'll be on your show. And I just want to thank you again for joining me on Sagely Speaking. And I want to thank my listeners. And so thank you for listening. And I want to thank my sponsors. Without you, I could not do what I do here on Sagely Speaking. Please, if you like Sagely Speaking, we ask that you might share this with your friends and family. And until we meet again, we wish you great health and happiness.